I'm Billy Staley. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for the County of Orangeburg. I want to take the opportunity to stop and talk for a few minutes and discuss emergency preparedness. September is National Emergency Preparedness Month. We'd like to encourage everyone to take the time to build a plan, to have an emergency preparedness plan for what you're going to do during a disaster. The first thing we'd like for you to do when you build your plan is know what the components are to the plan. You need to know, number one, what equipment you need to have or what supplies you need to have. Also, you need to know what your communication plan needs to be for a disaster. You also need to know where you plan to go, when you can stay, and when you need to leave. So let's talk a little bit about your plan. First part of your plan is let's discuss the supply list. What do you need in the event of a disaster? Some of the items included in a basic disaster supply kit would be a copy of the South Carolina Hurricane Guide, flashlights, batteries, portable radios with extra batteries, mobile device chargers, a weather radio so you can get weather alerts on what's going to happen during the storms, non-perishable food for at least 3 days, bedding and clothing for each one of your family members, blankets and towels, plastic dishes, eating utensils, rain jackets and pants depending on the weather you have, sunscreen, sunglasses, and mosquito repellent, baby supplies. If you have a child or if you have a baby, you're going to need to have specific supplies for that person. And that could be food, diapers, and medication, toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, and other personal hygiene items. Important documents that you would need: driver's license, social security cards, proof of residence, insurance policies, wills, deeds, birth certificates, and marriage certificates, tax records, medical records, family pictures, etc. Things that are very hard to replace. Cash on hand, enough to fill up your vehicles with at least a tank of gas. Sanitary supplies for you to stay clean. First aid kits, including any prescription medications, bottled water, at least 2 gallons of water per person per day. And we advise that pet supplies, food, leash, and carrier vaccination records also, and at least 2 gallons of water per pet per day. To go with that supply list. Let's talk a little bit about the different warnings and different severe weather events that can affect you. It could be a hurricane, it could be a tornado, it can be flooding, it could be a severe thunderstorm. All of these type weather disasters can come through and affect you. But we encourage you to make sure that you listen to the public officials and listen to the weather services about what the warnings are in your area. Watch the TV, watch the local media. Your best source for local information about the weather affecting your community is your local TV stations and your local weather service offices and emergency management agencies. A lot of people tend to rely a lot on the internet, but not everything on the internet is as detailed as what you get when you contact those local agencies. So please pay attention to those. When these storms hit and when we have these severe weather events, if we issue warnings for flooding or for hazards, please listen to them, and don't take the time to avoid these warnings because you could get injured. We issue warnings to protect you, the public, from the disasters and from the hazards associated with the disasters. So please take the time to, when you hear the warnings go out, listen to them. During disasters, we often issue evacuations. There are 2 types of evacuations. There's a local community-based evacuation, to where we may issue a local evacuation order because of a tornado that touched down and there's a lot of hazards in the community, or a chemical spill that may be an immediate threat to you. Those are localized evacuations. But then we have large-scale evacuations, such as when we have hurricanes coming. Normally in Orangeburg County, we do not issue an evacuation for a hurricane. We do open up shelters for sheltering purposes during hurricanes, but we do not issue an order to evacuate on general occasions. So if you need blankets and pillows, those are things that you need to have available, but that we do not provide at shelters. So you would need to bring those items with you to a shelter if you were evacuated. In addition to that, we do work with Charleston County and our coastal counties across the state when they issue evacuation orders, or the governor issues evacuation orders for the coast. We do receive evacuees from those locations to our shelters. And most importantly, we receive all of the traffic, or a lot of the traffic, evolving around those evacuations. Those are very large events, and the traffic can be very heavy. So we put a lot of protective measures in place with our partners from the Highway Patrol and law enforcement in the state and DOT to make sure we're doing it as safely as we can in the public, and the public knows what's going on. So it's very important when you hear them talking about coastal evacuations that you know, number one, where the shelters are. Number two, where the evacuation routes are. And those evacuation routes are where we're going to be sending most of the traffic associated with that evacuation from the coast. So if you're a local person in the community, you kind of know you may want to avoid that area because the traffic is going to be very heavy on those routes. So those are kind of things you need to think of. One of the biggest challenges we have with disasters is you being able to let your family know where you're at and if you're okay. So when you travel or when you build your plan to travel or evacuate, make sure that you contact someone out of state that you can tell, this is where I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to be, and this is how I can be reached. Then tell all of your friends and family to contact that one person to find out where you're at and what you're doing. That way you don't have a ton of people calling you trying to get you in the disaster area to know if you're okay. You call one person, then everybody calls that one person to find out what's going on with you. So communication plans are heavy, and have that ahead of time before the storm hits, and make sure your family and friends are educated about it. You can download the Hurricane Guide from southcarolinaemd.gov. southcarolinaemd.gov, there is also an app that you can download from the Apple Store or the Google Store, and you can download it for your phone, and it's a preparedness tool. It will actually provide you with all the documentation you need, all the steps you need to go through to build an emergency plan for you and your family. And it will also link you to important information being issued by the emergency management offices across the state, including the state of South Carolina. Take a little bit of time, build your plan, build your communications plan, make sure you have all the important documentation that you need, and make sure that you know when you need to leave. And the way you know when you need to leave is you listen to your local officials and you make an educated decision about whether you think it's safe for you to stay or it's better for you to leave.